Real life demons, demonic people.
Then some pretty demonous activities.
Did you make up that word? Demonous?
Yeah, it's not a real word. But these are some demonic images we were never meant to see.
Yes.
But we're gonna look at them because
You're
why
gonna see
not?
We're starting off with a very harrowing image right off the bat. A red-eyed demon lady staring into a dude's car. Just take a look at this nightmare fuel. The creepiest thing about this video is that the woman just does not move an inch. She just stares wide-eyed into the car, completely frozen the whole time. I don't know. This one just kind of got under my skin a little bit. At one point I actually started like averting my eyes from the screen just to avoid her glare. I also didn't know there's gonna be some kind of a pop-up scare of some kind. Her face is hard to read. She's kind of doing this blank, dead-eyed, like 1,000-yard stare, and because you can't make out any emotion on her face, just makes the whole thing even more unsettling. Of course, it could totally be a hoax, but I do find this one pretty effectively freaky. The red, unblinking eyes, the fact that she looks like she's covered in mud, it's just very strange. If anyone knows more about this video, please let me know down in the comments.
Next up, we have an image of an institutionalized woman taken in the 1900s, committed in France at a time when mental health was incredibly misunderstood and people suffering from epilepsy were often seen as being possessed by the devil. It's unclear what the woman in the photo suffered from or why she was imprisoned in the French institution in which the photo was taken, but what is clear is the fact that when the photo was taken, she had been forcibly restrained at the feet, by the wrists, and around the waist, a common practice for those suffering from delusions or fits at the time. For me personally, what stands out most about this photo taken at a time in which demons were to blame for the majority of mental ailments is that her body is positioned in the image of a cross. Whether or not this was directly intentional is unknown, but spooky nonetheless, not to mention super unethical.
Next on the list, we have this video of a goat walking on its hind legs. This video has been reposted like so many times, so I'm not exactly sure who the original uploader is. I think it's Youngstar TV. Anyway, the short clip shows a goat walking on its hind legs into a barn, being followed close behind by a chicken. Some people find this clip kind of funny. The folks behind the camera are chuckling. I'd definitely be entertained if I were, visiting that farm, but if I were the farmer, I'd probably be keeping my eye on that goat from that point on. I'd probably laugh at first, but that laugh would probably disintegrate into an uncomfortable chuckle as soon as I realized that Baphomet was living right outside where I slept. And who the hell knows what it's thinking and planning? A chicken was following close behind him. Was this goat gathering farm animals together to stage a coup? Start leading a chicken army to take over the farm? Animals walking around like humans without being instructed to just gives me the creeps. Like, when you see videos of like dogs just walking on their hind legs, it's not right. It doesn't look right. It's like, no, stop that, please.
Next up, human dolls. It really doesn't get much more demonic than this. These lifelike dolls were created by a man named Anatoly Moskvin, a former Russian journalist who, let's face it, was absolutely bat crazy. Oh, and when I say these dolls were lifelike, I mean it. Why? Well, because they were made of human flesh. Anyways, Moskvin was also a self-proclaimed grave expert, and he spent many years digging up the bodies of young women to use for his sick art projects. Each doll he made was carefully kept inside his home. He thought of them as both companions and lovers, and even admitted to engaging in physical contact with the creations in his writings. For many years, Moskvin and his deranged projects flew under the radar, but he was eventually caught in 2011 after police grew suspicious of the rising number of desecrated graves in the area. When officials searched the home of Moskvin, they found 26 life-size dolls, which were basically just mummified corpses laid out around the man's home like they were living there. I guess you could argue that what he did isn't technically demonic, but it's for sure demented.
This next video is taken in Mexico at a church. The priest was in the middle of leading a sermon when suddenly you hear this loud, distressed scream coming from somewhere. Take a listen.
El Señor esté con ustedes y con tu espíritu.
Now, it's hard to make out what the voice is saying, especially because I don't speak Spanish. Some people have said it sounds like a woman screaming, "Please help." Now, there's not a ton of info behind this clip, but apparently the priest immediately stopped the sermon after that. Even in the short clip, you see him step down from the podium as his voice kind of like trails off. He seems pretty unsettled. And I mean, fair enough. Ghostly screams echoing through a church is probably gonna throw off your rhythm just a little bit.
Next up, we have a photograph taken during the exorcism of Annelise Michel. In the late 1960s, the young woman began to exhibit increasingly alarming behaviors, causing both her and her parents to believe that she had been possessed by the devil. After a while of watching Annelise routinely convulse, hallucinate, eat spiders, and consume her own urine, they decided it was time to call in the big guns: exorcists. But unfortunately for Annelise and her family, the first exorcism didn't take, or the second, or the third. In total, Annelise Michel underwent 67 exorcisms throughout her life, none of which seemed to do the young woman any good. She died of malnutrition in 1976, or at least that's what they say she died of. She was 23 years old and just 68 pounds. The last image taken of the woman alive is a true testament to the torment she endured throughout her life. And not only that, but the events of the poor woman's life actually are what inspired the 2005 horror film The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
This is not the face you want to see in an alleyway in the middle of the night. It looks like Reagan from The Exorcist. I'd be running away crying too if I saw that. Though this guy did stick around for a while. He just kind of stared with the camera at this demonic thing as it was just kind of, yeah. Freaky. I don't know where this video is from. I don't know the backstory. It sounds like the guy is speaking Arabic. Some commenters have said that this demon thing could be a jinn. Whatever it is, it's creepy as hell. Of course, it could be a hoax, but whatever. Like a mysterious video with some nightmarish imagery always works for me.
Next up, nuclear shadows. After the 1945 bombing of Hiroshima on August 6th by the United States, not much was left in the areas in which the blast went off. Somewhere around 80,000 people lost their lives due to the explosion, which went off about 1,900 feet above the city's center. When the nuclear weapon, often referred to as the little boy, detonated, it caused the surrounding area to reach temperatures of up to 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which completely obliterated anything within 1,600 feet of the blast zone. Not only that, but the extreme heat caused bleaching to occur on the city's exposed surfaces like buildings, roads, sidewalks, staircases, you name it. However, in places where people stood during the blast, bleaching did not occur. Bodies would protect the surface from the heat flash as they themselves were incinerated in mere moments. To look at these images now is pretty disturbing.
Next up, we have a sleep paralysis demon. This clip was shared to TikTok by Nightmare Fuel with the description reading, "If you suffer from sleep paralysis, please do not watch." Well, too late for me. I watched it. In the video, we see a man sleeping in bed. A thermal imaging camera has been set up. The man lays motionless in bed without any context. We think he was just sound asleep, but that's not exactly the case. Turns out he was experiencing a round of sleep paralysis, but the chilling part comes in when we see something being picked up on the thermal imaging camera that we can't see on the normal camera. It looks like some sort of entity climbing onto the bed and crouching on the man's chest, which is the exact feeling people would describe having when experiencing sleep paralysis. Sometimes people will say they even see some sort of entity as well. Sleep paralysis, ain't it a barrel of laughs? I've had sleep paralysis a number of times, more so when I was younger, but every once in a while it still shows up for an impromptu visit at 3 a.m. Next time it happens, I'll be thinking of this video. So, thanks for that.
And finally, we have the rather haunting, or demonic perhaps, message left behind by William Hirons on December 10th of 1945, moments before he brutally took the life of Frances Brown. The message, written on the wall in Brown's home and in her own red lipstick, read, "For heaven's sake, catch me before I kill again. I cannot control myself," thus giving Hirons the name the Lipstick Killer. After writing the message, Hirons impaled Brown Brown with a large blade and then wrapped her head in towels before fleeing the scene. Prior to killing Brown, Herons had actually taken the life of another woman named Josephine Ross in a similar fashion. She had been impaled before having her skirt wrapped around her head. But in the case of Ross, her wounds had been taped shut. The last woman Herons killed was Suzanne Degnan. She was taken from her bedroom, and 12 hours later her head was found floating in a sewer near her family home. Herons was finally arrested after an attempted B&E, and while in interrogation he admitted to being the lipstick killer and was sentenced to life in prison. However, many discrepancies make his incarceration quite controversial, but I will save that for another video.
Alright, Anna, you gonna be alright having seen these images now?
I don't know, I might not sleep tonight. And if you can't sleep tonight, that's on us. We do apologize, but we appreciate you being here. Alright guys, I've been your host, Hannah Thompson.
I've been your host, James.
See you in the next one.